When people talk about careers today, one phrase often comes up very early: work life balance. I hear it from students, from people in their first jobs, from interns, from people who haven't even started working yet. And every time I hear it, I think back to my own early 20s. Because when I started my career during that phase, I didn't think about work life balance at all. At all. I mean, not because I was brave, not because I was special or something, mostly because I didn't even know it was a thing. I mean, I thought that it would be something, there may be some things that people who are big in the companies and have done something may have some privileges, not for us, right? I was just trying to survive, trying to learn, trying to understand how the real world worked. And looking back now, I realize something that is very important to share right now. Work life balance is not wrong. It's not wrong. But the timing matters. The timing matters. Early in your career, balance does not differentiate you. Balance does not differentiate you. Later in your career, it protects you. Those are two very, very different phases we are talking about here. When you are starting out, almost everyone around you looks similar on paper. Just think about it. Same degrees, same college tier, similar marks, similar projects, similar resumes, right? Because just think of a company comes in your campus. The people around you with whom you are competing have similar backgrounds, right? Now, if 10 people apply for the same role, 9 of them usually meet the basic criteria, right? Most of them usually meet that. So, what actually separates people when we are interviewing? It's not the intentions, it's not the plans, it's not the potential, it's the depth. And I'm telling you, being an interviewer for some time in my career, what are the things that interviewer would be looking at, right? So I'm just trying to share from this side of the table what we typically look at. Now, when we talk of depth, the depth of learning, depth of involvement, depth of understanding how things really work, that depth does not come from doing the minimum required. No, that would not come from doing just the minimal things that are required. It comes from learning in a little more when others don't. You have to do little more that others don't do it. Let me give you a practical example here. When I was early in my career, internships matter a lot. I mean, I knew that internships matter, not that much, but I knew that it is something that is important in the career. Some paid well, some didn't, some were exciting, some were boring, but the ones that changed the trajectory were not the ones with the perfect balance. They were the ones that stayed late to understand why something broke. Where you ask questions even when it felt awkward. And I know I'm talking about my, friends and colleagues with whom I have interacted about this, where I documented what was learned, where the questions were asked for feedback instead of just waiting for a praise, and where we asked seniors what should be learned next, what not, what kind of title I would get and all that. At the time, it didn't feel balanced, right? It feels intense, but that intensity builds leverage. I personally did not do a great internship at the time, but the people who did were doing great in their careers. And the leverage is what creates options later, right? That internships or practical leverage that you build. Here's something people don't say very openly that I want to share. In the early phase, if you divide your energy equally between everything, like career and comfort and hobbies and recovery and exploration and all that, you don't fail. I mean, you would not fail, but you would just stay average. Just stay average. Average is safe, but average also compounds slowly. It compounds slowly. Now, this does not mean burning out. It does not mean working every hour. It does not mean ignoring health and family and all that things. It means understanding seasons. Understanding seasons. There are seasons where learning faster matters more than feeling balanced. And there are seasons where balance matters because you already have that leverage. Think of it like this. If you show up at 100% every single day, you won't last. That leads to burnout. But if you show up around say 80 to 80% consistently over years and years and years, not weeks, you outlast people who rely on talent bursts or motivational spikes. You don't need to be the topper every time. You don't need the perfect scores every time. You don't need to win every race every time. You need longevity. And that's why I am talking about the internships here, because in the internships is something that can help you with the leverage. If I had known at the time, I would have tried to leverage that more and take the best internships that would have helped me in my career. I was not topper in the school, not in the engineering, not in the MBA. There were always people ahead of me on paper. Lot of times, almost always. But what I told myself early was simple. Very simple here. I may not beat everyone in the raw performance today because they are getting better marks and grades than me, but I can stay in the game longer. I always thought that I'm going to stay in this for a longer period of time, and that staying longer matters more than many people think. At that time, it was not a strategy. I just thought that this is what I think would give me leverage in future, and that it did. I've seen very capable people stop learning once they get a degree. I've seen people slow down after their first job, or I've also seen people protect comfort too early. Work-life balance and all those things. I want to have a remote job. I want to have hybrid work early in their careers. We don't have to think on those, right? I mean, they didn't fail dramatically. They just stopped, I would say, compounding. They stopped compounding. And years later, they wondered why progress felt slow. Here's the part that often gets kind of misunderstood. Balance is not a starting strategy. Balance is not a starting strategy. Balance is a reward for accumulated leverage. Try to understand that. Once you have skills, once you have credibility, once people trust your judgment, once your experience speaks for you, then balance becomes powerful. You can say no, you can choose roles, you can protect your time, but trying to optimize balance before you have built value usually leads to frustration. It leads to frustration, especially in the initial 5 to 7 years. And I'm talking about after you are done with your studies, or almost finishing your studies and then trying to get into the corporate world. So if you are early in your career and feeling conflicted in all this, like you should be doing more but also don't want to overdo it, here's a grounded way to think about it. You don't need to give everything. You need to give enough consistently for long enough. Enough to build skills, enough to build proof, enough to build momentum. Later that momentum buys you balance. It is going to buy you balance. If this idea resonates with you, keep it in mind, not as pressure or not as even guilt, just as a perspective. Early effort compounds very quietly, the early effort that you are going to put in, and years later it changes what is possible. If there was someone who was there to tell me this when I was doing my MBA or finishing my engineering, I would have changed the trajectory the way I did and focused more on the summer projects and internships more.